All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. My name is Kevin Lee. I'm a senior product manager at AWS WAF.
And my name is Chido Chimambo, and I'm a security engineer on the Shield response team.
And today we'll be talking about AWS Shield Advanced. So just a quick agenda for tonight. I would like to do a quick overview of the AWS Shield itself, and I'll also cover some of the services we have within the perimeter protection services. And we'll do a deep dive into Shield's automatic application layer DDoS mitigation, which is a new feature that we're launching today. And we'll conclude the session by doing a demo led by Chido himself. So as an application owner, you want to make sure that your application is always available, ready, and responsive for your customer. So things like the uptime is very important. Being able to scale on demand is also very important. And when the attack comes to you, you're ready to handle it. You also want to make sure that you can easily comply with your compliance regulations that requires your application to be online. And this is where Shield Advanced can come into play. So some of the challenges that keeping your application always available are traditional solutions that are always complex and expensive. They're not easily compatible across vendors. And sometimes it requires you to deploy into multiple services. And this adds like maintenance headache as well. Also, it's a resource drain for your team as well because you need to constantly monitor for DDoS attacks. And even with your team, they might not have the actual expertise to mitigate the attack themselves. When you're under DDoS attack, they can also get expensive as well. Your tools, your cost to scale, and so on. AWS offers a suite of products that can help you protect your application at the perimeter level. And we offer 4 of these services today. These are AWS Shield, and Shield is our managed DDoS protection service. AWS WAF provides the protection at the application level that provides protection for business logic. AWS Network Firewall protects the layer 3 and layer 4 level, that is your network and transport level for your VPCs. And lastly, to coordinate all these firewalls together, we have Firewall Manager, which you can use to centrally configure and manage security policy across your accounts and organization. So all AWS customers benefit from the automatic protection that Shield Standard offers at no additional charge. Shield Standard defends against the most common and frequently occurring DDoS attack that's happening on AWS network. You don't need to actually activate it by yourself. These are just automatically there for you when you're on AWS. When you need protection against targeted DDoS attack, this is where Shield Advanced comes into the play. So I will not be going through every single boxes that are shown on the screen, but when you subscribe to Shield Advanced, these are the capability that you get within the orange boxes. So you get the protection for your L3 to L7 all the way throughout for your application. You also get additional insight into DDoS mitigation through the DDoS threat environment dashboard. And also, the most important one is that you have access to our Shield response team 24/7. And then you get the cost protection when you're under attack. So Shield Advanced will actually cover any costs generated from the scaling to handle that attack. And if you enable Shield protection, you get AWS WAF at no additional charge as well. Today, we're expanding this capability by adding automatic application layer protection, which is highlighted in the white box over there. Shield protects 5 of these endpoints, and these are elastic load balancing. So these are like ALB, NLB, Amazon CloudFront for your CDNs, Route 53 for your DNS, and AWS Global Accelerator for your Anycast solution. We also support elastic IP address, so if you just want to protect single IP as well. So one of the biggest advantage of Shield Advanced is that the Shield Response team. This is a team that you can always rely on 24/7 when you're facing a DDoS attack. They'll work with you to mitigate a DDoS attack that's happening on your application. In addition, they will help you with the initial onboarding process as well. They will check your infrastructure, give you a recommendation, and they'll also teach you how you can posture yourself best for the DDoS attack that might come. They'll also help you understand more about the attack, so any kind of post-mortem analysis, you can reach out to the team and they'll let you know about the attack itself. And they have a special knowledge configuring your WAF rules in addition to fighting against the sophisticated bots as well. So AWS WAF offers protection at the L7 level, the application layer, and it protects your business logic. So some of the benefit of WAF is the frictionless setup. WAF is super easy to set it up. If you're running on either application load balancer, Amazon CloudFront, API Gateway, or AppSync for GraphQL, you can enable WAF with just one click. It's also low operation overhead, meaning that WAF provides a managed rules for you that you can already use, so you don't have to write your own security rules. Or if you prefer, you can actually purchase third-party rules from the marketplace as well. And recently, we added more complex type of rules, one of them being called bot control, and that helps you provide protection for the common and pervasive bots that might be roaming within your traffic. WAF is also highly customizable, so WAF can inspect any part of the request within single millisecond latency, and you can propagate the rule changes within under a minute, so you can react to attacks faster. So I briefly hinted about bot control, which is our special rules that we developed this year. And bot control is designed to help you common and pervasive bot traffic on your application. It can identify categorized bot automatically, so our threat researchers will routinely look at the traffic and they'll look for new behavior pattern and add new rule signature to the bot control. You can also combine with the native WAF mitigation techniques with the bot control to prevent the bot on your application. Finally, bot control provides additional insight as well through the CloudWatch, and you can also enable WAF logging to get more detail as well. I'm actually doing an additional session on bot control tomorrow, so if you're interested, I highly encourage you to take a look as well. So to control all these firewalls and protection, we offer Firewall Manager. And Firewall Manager is the tool that we have for centrally configuring security policies and protection across AWS. So Firewall Manager allows you to centralize and baseline security within your organization. So you can use it to configure a WAF policy across your entire organization, enable shield protection, and also you can configure and set up network firewall as well. In addition, you can also use it to configure security group for your VPCs. And you can also use a DNS firewall through the Firewall Manager as well. It will constantly enforce the protection within your organization. So even if your application owner changes the policy, the Firewall Manager will go back and change it back, ensuring that it's consistent throughout your entire organization. Also, it provides that reporting, so you can go to the Firewall Manager console, and you can get an entire look as to which accounts are protected and which ones are not as well. So just to kind of give you an example of how Shield can be leveraged in many situations, obviously the first one, you can use it to protect your web application, the most common ones. If you have a gaming use case for that low latency sensitive application, Shield can definitely help out there as well. And you can also use Shield to protect your serverless application as well. And as you know, Lambda can get really expensive very fast. And if the Lambda were to attack, that expense kind of grows up really quickly. Last one, which is kind of surprising probably for many of you, is that Shield can also protect your on-premise application as well. And I'll demonstrate to you in the next few slides. So here's an example how a typical web application can look like. So we start with a Route 53. So any client that comes to your application, they need to resolve the DNS before they can even connect. Attackers will often target DNS to cause congestion and preventing users from connecting to your application. And putting Shield here, we can perform DNS header validation to ensure that every packet that is incoming is a valid request. We also generally recommend to add a CloudFront in front of your application. CloudFront is our geographical distributed infrastructure, which allows us to isolate attacker where that attack is happening. So your users are shielded from any kind of attack that hits our network. For attacks that hits the region directly, Shield can also ensure well-formed web requests are accepted, and underlying host services can absorb that traffic, and you get the protection, the cost benefit, the cost protection from scaling up as well. So here's a similar diagram for on-premise application. And here we're using Route 53 to handle your DNS, and then using CloudFront to front all your traffic that's heading into your data center. After you front your data center with CloudFront, you basically restrict your data to accept only from the CloudFront. This gives the same protection that I described earlier without having to change your infrastructure on your origin side. It is also possible to route your traffic through ALB and NLB, and then target to your on-premise application using Transit Gateway or Direct Connect. And some of your infrastructure can remain on-premise, while some of them can be on AWS and still be protected that way. But I'd like to kind of point out is that any kind of network or any kind of resource that you may have can be protected by Shield simply by pointing your endpoint using the Route 53 and using CloudFront. So switching gears a bit, I will now talk about one of the new features that we're launching today, and that is automatic application layer DDoS mitigation. Or for short, I call it L7 auto mitigation. The new L7 auto mitigation can protect your application by detecting volumetric anomaly from your traffic and mitigate them with no manual intervention needed by either you or our SRT or Shield response team. This is available to all Shield Advanced customers at no extra cost. And the L7 auto mitigation will create WAF rules automatically to mitigate an attack. And you can also put them in the monitoring mode, meaning that they will simply look at the traffic but not take any action, or you can tell it to take a block action and take action immediately once the attack has been found. And this allows you to respond to the attack quickly, so you don't just have to sit there and idle when the attack is coming on. Once the attack slows down or subsides, the rules will be automatically removed by Shield. The way we detect anomaly is by defining the baseline and analyzing the traffic pattern as it comes. The baseline can cover up to 30-day rolling window, and Shield needs about 25 hours minimum to establish the baseline. There are a lot of signals that we use to determine whether if it's a good traffic or bad traffic. Unfortunately, we don't want to give a secret sauce here because attackers will then know how we are detecting these kind of threats to make a judgment. But just to kind of give you some idea, the things that we look for are attack posing to the risk to application availability, any attacks that matches a known attack pattern that are seen on our network, and also any kind of event where traffic increase may impact the application availability. So while we report all these events to you, so we will let you know as it happens, we will only mitigate them when we have a high confidence that there is actual DDoS activity happening on your traffic. So to minimize false positive, we take multiple steps to ensure that the mitigation we put in place are not harmful to your traffic. First, attack signatures are scored based on how well they can be isolated from your legitimate traffic. We then act only when we believe there's a high confidence that the event is an actual attack. We assess for any kind of false positive by looking at your current traffic as well. And finally, we create a WAF rules to take an action as you desire. The key use case is that when you have a valid spike, so this spike can be any kind of like event-driven or like a Black Friday event or you're launching a new product, Shield is smart so that it's not just going to immediately block that spike that it sees. There's a lot of signals that we analyze to make sure that we're not doing that. And you can always put the rules into the monitoring mode, meaning that WAF will not take an action, or you can tell the Shield to take a block action if you feel that you want to take an action immediately. To enable L7 auto mitigation, you first need to obviously enable the Shield protection on the resource that you're interested in protecting, enable WAF on that resource as well, and finally, you have to enable the feature itself. Once that all has been done, Shield will automatically create a rule group within the WAF and add the rules as the DDoS events are happening. You cannot make changes to this rule group, only Shield is able to do so. When you also enable the L7 auto mitigation, you have an option to deploy them in automatic block mode or monitor them using the count mode as well. Automatic mitigation can be disabled at any time, so if you feel that you need to take an action manually, you can do so. When the attack subsides, WAF rules will automatically remove by Shield, so you don't have to go back manually and remove those rules as well. The L7 auto mitigation gives you that additional visibility and metrics into the attack as well. So you get that volume of requests to the resource that Shield sees. And you also get the information about traffic that's being blocked. And you can filter this based on the event that we identify as well. So we give you a timeline, and you can specify a specific event that you want to look at based on these metrics that we provide. You can also look at some interesting insights, such as top contributors. So like, who are the top source IP, destination IP, where is it coming from, and what's the URI path it's hitting. And all this information is provided to you through the CloudWatch metrics. So that concludes my presentation. I'll let Chito take over for his demo.
Hello, everyone. For the demo today, I'll be walking you through the Shield console, as well as enabling a protected resource and enabling L7 auto mitigation on that resource. On the screen right now, I'm in the AWS Management Console. I'll quickly navigate to the Shield console by typing Shield up on the top. You can see the WAF and Shield link comes up. Once I'm on this page, I can click on AWS Shield and go to the Getting Started page. This Getting Started page lists details about global activity that's detected across all of AWS. It shows details about attacks and some of the largest attacks we've seen during a given year. Below that, you see account activity for this particular account, which is available for AWS Shield as well as Shield Advanced customers. And below that, you see a comparison between Shield and the different Shield tiers. So this is Shield and Shield Advanced. Moving on to the next overview page, This is where we see the AWS Shield Advanced details, as well as the status of your onboarding. Currently on this account, I've completed my onboarding where I've subscribed to Shield Advanced. I've added resources to protect, as well as configured SRT access to the account. Below that, I see a summary of my protected resources, how those are categorized. So like CloudFront distribution there is listed as 4, and I don't have any other resource types I've added as protected resources. Next to that is a summary for our account, similar to the previous page, which you can see the number of attacks that happen on our account and different attributes of that. Below that, you can see the proactive engagement contacts, as well as if proactive engagement is enabled. Proactive engagement is a feature that allows the Shield response team to contact the customer directly when a DDoS event has been detected, as well as the associated health check has become unhealthy. This is an optional setting to enable. Moving on to the next page, I can see a list of my protected resources. Currently in this account, I only have CloudFront distributions. This is divided by the different columns that give you more details about what you've already added on that resource. So if a web ACL is associated, if there's any health checks associated for it, that's for health-based detection, as well as if any L7 auto mitigation has been enabled. 3 of my resources there have already got this feature enabled, but I'll be returning to this page later to add an additional resource that I would like to protect and enable a feature on. On the events page, I can see previous events as well as active events if there are any. These events would be related to either DDoS attacks or any anomalies we've detected. I'll click onto one of these historical events that I have listed here. You can see that on this page, I can see some of the detection metrics, as well as additional attributes about the DDoS event. If I click on top contributors, I can see IP addresses, additional information about the attack that I can use in order to see what the attack is composed of. Finally, in the next page, you have the global threat dashboard. This is a page that lists attacks we've seen across AWS, gives the largest ones and details about that, and you can choose different time windows at which to view that. Now, I'll go ahead and create a protection and enable L7 auto mitigation. I'll click back onto my protected resource page. On the top right, I'll click Add Resources Protected Resource. Since I want to add the following CloudFront distribution that I have opened here, which ends in HH, I already know that this is my distribution ID. This distribution already has an AWS WAF web ACL associated with it that's named Shield Reinvent Demo. Going back to my Shield console, just to load that up as I add it as a protected resource, I will uncheck the other resource types and leave only CloudFront distributions. Once I've got that checked, I'll click Load Distributions, and I can see a couple of unprotected distributions have been listed. Just to quickly identify the distribution I want that ends in HH, I quickly see it here, and I check that. For this demo, I won't be adding any tags, but tags are useful for identifying resources and adding additional parameters that you can identify it with. In this next page, I can see options to associate a web ACL. Since this distribution already has a web ACL, I don't get any listings there, so I'm not going to do anything on that portion. Below that is the new addition, which is the automatic application layer DDoS mitigation. At this stage, I have 3 options. I have keep current settings. So if I was running the same wizard or editing it, and I already had L7 auto mitigation enabled, and I don't want to make any changes, I can just keep current settings. For this demo, I want to enable it. Once I click on the Enable Radio button, I get a drop-down menu that pops up, which has two actions, block or count. Count means that this would be enabled, and it would just count the requests, as Kevin mentioned, and you can use this to see what actions would have been taken by the rule group that's added. We recommend that customers, as they add this new feature and testing it out in their environments, they enable it in count mode. For demo purposes, I'll enable it as blocked. Below this, I see a notification that I don't have a rate-based rule as part of my web ACL. Rate-based rules are considered part of best practice for your web ACL in order to be able to mitigate some DDoS attacks that are just composed of single IPs or multiple IPs that are exceeding certain request thresholds. So to keep up with best practices, I'll click Add Rate-Based Rule. I'll name my rule Shield Demo, and then just set it to the minimum 100 requests per 5-minute period. I'll select that as block count. So I just wanted, at this moment, just to step back a little and quickly go to my AWS WAF and show that currently in this AWS WAF, the Shield reInvent demo page that I had, that I don't have any rules, but I want, as I complete my wizard, we should see the rate-based rule added there, as well as the one related to the L7 auto mitigation. So I step back to my wizard that I still have in the Shield console and continue and go to next. At this stage, I have an option to add a Route 53 health check for health-based detection, as well as adding a health check improves, gives us a second signal to the health of your application or the protected resource, which is useful in avoiding false positives, as well as is a pre-requirement to enabling proactive response on that resource. For this demo purposes, I won't be adding a health check, so I'll click Next. On the next screen, you get an option to add an SNS topic that a notification will be sent when a DDoS is detected on this particular resource. For the demo, I won't be adding that, so I'll click Next. Finally, on the last page, I get a summary of the actions that I would like to take, which is enable protected resource on the distribution that ends in HH, as well as enable automatic application layer mitigation, DDoS mitigation. I click Finish Configuration. At this stage, I can see that the protection has been configured, and I can see that my resource has been added as a protected resource, as well as it's enabled with block action. If I go back to my WAF previously and refresh this page, I should be able to see that there's two rules added there. The first rule is the rate-based rule, which has added the priority of 0, as well as the layer 7 auto mitigation rule group that's added with the priority of 10 million. This avoids it being added above any existing rules, but as a customer, you can move it up and down as you require. This rule is named Shield Mitigation Rule Group, the account ID, the web ACL ID, and a unique identifier. After this is done, there's no additional steps to enabling this feature. Thank you. Kevin.
Here we go. Yep. So here are some checklists that we recommend that you go through when you're enabling Shield Advanced. First of all, make sure that your resources that you want to protect, Like you need to actually tell us the resource that you want to protect in order for Shield Advanced to work. You also need to configure your Route 53 health check accordingly. And then you need to enable proactive DDoS response for us, our Shield response team, to engage. And then you can enable the new feature that we developed today and launched, that is automatic application layer DDoS mitigation. You should also set up your CloudWatch metrics so that you're getting alerts for any kind of activity that's happening. And lastly, you should also add a rate-based rule so that your incoming traffic at the layer 7 level is rate limited as well. With that said, thank you very much.